Welcome to the Natural Healing Rail. I'm your host, Jackie. My guest today has a love for mystery and the mysticism. She describes herself as curious and courageous and has a burning passion for life, humanity, and the cosmos. Please help me welcome Aureal Williams to the Natural Healing Rail.
Hi,
Hi,
Jackie. Hi.
thanks for joining us today.
I'm thrilled to be here.
We have a lot to talk about, and we're going to be talking about the quantum and the shift into the fifth dimension, which I am really excited about to have some more information about this journey. You've written a book explaining this with a workbook to follow to help us kind of work ourselves into the five pillars that you were explaining to me. So share with us.
Okay, Jackie, thank you. Yes, I have been tracking our quantum shift into the fifth dimension since the 1960s. And for people like me who are immersed in this shift, there's a ton of information on the internet that supports our growing awareness and experience of this. For people who are new to it or have never heard of it before, there's not a lot of information. So I was inspired to write this book. It's a small ebook, and the title is 5D: Ordinary Descriptions of an Extraordinary Shift. And in this book, I look at how the shift is showing up through all of these different areas of our lives. For instance, in gender fluidity, in the 1960s, we men were not in the delivery room. They had nothing to do with the birth of their children or the parenting of their children. This was before the 1960s. And then in the 1960s, that changed. Men started to be in the delivery room. They started to co-parent with their wives, with their partners. And it's to the point now where fathers are active in the raising of children. And this shift has expanded to gender fluidity, where people can identify in any gender that they want. Birth certificates and passports don't even need to have a gender in some places. So there's this great shift where the masculine and the feminine have kind of integrated into a whole. And that's one place where 5D shows up. Another way that it shows up is in power to the people. And that is in probably in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, people started taking control of their health. They started to partner with their doctors or even say no to the doctor and choose their own health path. And this is across the board of people taking their power back everywhere. So that's another way that 5D is showing up. And that extends to the equality and the equanimity around the problems of diversity. We're not there yet. We're far from being there yet, but it is changing, and people are much more together, and they're louder and clearer and stronger and saying enough is enough. So that equality, that it's not a hierarchy anymore. It's more just equal. And so that's another shift that's happening. Other ways that 5D has shown up is in how we're accepting that we're partnering with the earth. The industrial age imprinted on us that humanity was a machine. And clearly, everywhere in our life, we're seeing that we cannot operate like machines. We're just not built that way. Creativity is fluid. And one of the paradigm shifts from 3D, the slogan was time is money. And 5D, time is art. And how that reveals itself is that we're in a creative process. Life is fluid, it's not linear, and creativity is fluid like that. So these are, and then another way is how animals are, interspecies animals are cooperating with one another where they never did before, and humans and animals are cooperating. So we're seeing the whole of humanity come together in their own power. And this is 5D. 5D is unconditional love, it's sovereignty, and it's inclusivity.
And so they talk about the rise of the divine feminine that's happening right now. And do you believe that that is a part of kind of the integration of what's happening there?
Absolutely, Jackie. My take on this, I work with astrology, and in that I look at the great ages, which are periods of time of 26,000 years. And we had, in long ago history, we had a matriarchy. And more recently, we've had a patriarchy. And now the divine feminine is resurfacing. And I feel that it's coming into this third wave of the integration of the masculine and the feminine, because the men are clearly embracing their divine feminine as well. It's not just for women. It's everybody realizing that we can be intuitive, we can be fluid, we can be receptive, we can be still and listen. Those are qualities of the feminine. I mean, the feminine rules by inner awareness, and that's what's happening for all of us now. And we have to include action with the stillness, and I think that's where we are. And in the big picture of our evolution is integrating the masculine with the feminine, but divine femininity is crucial to that integration.
Yeah. And just owning the power of the divine. I did an interview not long ago, and he was explaining, I've never heard this before, but how women are our biggest gift, because you put 100 men out to war and there's one left. Well, he can still recreate the community, but if you put the 100 women out to war and there's none left or only one left, you can't recreate. So the women are of the highest asset and value. And I was like, wow, like we know that, but to really actually have somebody teaching that the respect of the divine feminine, right?
Yes.
And the integration, and it's not a separation, right? I think
Right, right.
not the separating that women are better than men. It's like what you're saying. It's the integration of it. It's bringing the divine feminine out in all of us that has been pushed down because it's powerful, I believe.
Right, exactly. They were scared of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Too powerful.
Right.
Too powerful to control, I think, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So 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 the fifth dimension. So what does it mean actually then? To be in the fifth dimension, it just means that what? And how
It,
does somebody know if they're in the fifth dimension or moving through?
right, right. Well, the fifth dimension is about cooperation and collaboration instead of competition.
Nice.
And so we know, that whole period of, I mean, it's still going on, of us versus them. It's so unnatural, and it's so toxic, and it's so divisive. So one way to real, I mean, it's all a work in progress, Jackie. It's what it is it's our raising our consciousness, and it means that we're operating from our heart level instead of our mind. That's another big piece of the fifth dimension, is that we're motivated, we're driven, we're inspired by heart instead of by thinking. And we can't get there by thought anymore. We have to feel it. We have to feel what's right for us and choose from there. So ways that people can know if they're fluttering into the fifth dimension is if they embrace everything. They don't have to agree with it, they don't have to participate in it, but they have to. I mean, and I'm not saying that they have to, but in 5D we recognize the sovereignty of another being, that they have their choice and that they can do what they want. We might choose differently, but we don't ignore their power to choose, basically.
Or
Does
how
is
about
that
judge? How about judge and condemn? There's so much of that going
ex-
on. You're doing something
exactly
different,
exactly
then
this
it's this negative, and the talk and the people lift themselves thinking, looking down their nose at people.
Yeah,
This talks
yeah.
that this toxic pattern will lift up out of that. That would be great.
Absolutely. Well, that, I mentioned the 5 pillars, and letting go is one of them. We have to discern. It's about discerning. It's about choosing. Every single second of our life is a sacred moment for choice. And we can either choose to stay down, or we can choose to be light and freer. And it doesn't take away from what we want or how we're going to get there. We're coming into our own power. I mean, 5D is magical. I mean, its manifestation is instantaneous. It's like we just when we clear the debris of judging other people or feeling separate from them, we get into that oneness experience where everything is possible and we're empowered. It's like, and it's not static. It's not like set in stone, and it's not like we can plan something. It's just we accept the power of our heart to know what's right for us and to choose what's right for us, and to let go of everything else, that doesn't concern us. And this is a really hard thing for people to do, because we're inundated with modern media, the 24-hour news cycle, and it's so juicy and gossipy. But if we say, I'm not going there, I have something to create. I want to draw a card and send it to a friend, or I want to write a story, or I want to play with my kids, or I want to cook a delicious meal. If we choose to go into where there's energy for us, where there's excitement and enthusiasm, and build on that. And it's hard, it takes muscle. We have to practice it. It's not easy. But if we choose wisely in each moment, we're going to build up our choices that help us be 5D.
Yeah. Well, you talked about, we're going to come out of the competitiveness, right? And I think um, I think it was one of my interviews, and he just said that when you're competing, you just kill joy. As soon as you go into wanting to compete with that person instead of lifting that person, supporting that person, seeing the greatness in that person, our society has being kind of only one wins, right? Like
Right,
there's only one winner, like second to second. And
right,
and it's so defeating, and so I don't know, it's just nobody's lifting the other one's trying to stand on top of the other. And we've
right.
lived in a society of that toxicity for so long. And I think that's going to have to be a big, huge switch just in the thought of how the competitiveness is, right? Like it's,
Absolutely, Jackie, you're so right, and I'm glad you're bringing that into the conversation. What's underneath those choices of being competitive is fear-based. It's a scarcity consciousness, and it's like we don't have enough in ourselves, and there's not enough to go around. Well, there's more than enough to go around. We don't understand it. See, that's the thing. Our minds can't grasp it, but
yeah,
our hearts can. So if we just drop down, if you know ways that you can enhance 5D living is by dropping down your awareness into your heart and trying to let go of thought and open to feeling. It's like the whole world is opening, the whole cosmos is opening up, is giving us information. If we just settle into our heart and receive, ask and receive. So that fear-based consciousness is scarcity-based, and that's where the competition comes. And it's not true. I learned a long time ago, decades ago, that comparison is impossible. You cannot compare yourself to anybody or anything. You know, you're unique with your own beauty and gifts and talents, and it's not comparable to anybody else's.
Yeah. So what about the information about that the heart has a brain? Like that is relatively, it's not brand new, but it's relatively new that they found that. And I know, remember that saying, do you listen to your heart or do you listen to your head? From the research now that the scientists are doing, like Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton, and they're all have proven this, that the heart actually is probably got the best answer because
Right, right.
yeah, and when you intend from the heart, you know that you're not going to get that backflack of the repercussion, the boomerang that comes back from the universe. It's because you're intending from the heart. So whatever's coming back is of goodness and greatness, right?
Love is the operating principle of the universe, that there's no getting around that, and that comes from the heart. and
Yeah.
and how, if somebody hearing this and they say, well, how do you do that? You First of all, you have to relax. Relaxation is the key. And then because our body responds, our body is the instrument of knowing these days. And so if we can allow the body to respond, and we just sink into our heart and feel what we feel. And some people are really challenged with knowing their feelings. However, they can be more comfortable with it with practice. Just say, I feel this, with no judgment on what the feeling is, but just acknowledge the feeling and just kind of let go of mind. It's such an exhilarating, freeing experience to let go of mind and to just feel. And there's many teachers. I help people adapt to this, and thousands of us are doing this work, and it's simply a matter of relaxing and feeling. And the other piece of it is to have a new relationship with time. That's central to 5D, because we're infinite beings, and past, present, and future are simultaneous. And so it's not linear anymore. It's really fluid and present moment, and everything changes. So one moment you can feel this way, and another moment you can feel another way, and they're both valid. It's just stay in the moment with the feeling and learn to trust it. Golden.
And is there a time shift that's happening? Like, are we, the whole time thing is very hard to understand, I think, for most of us, right? Because, like you say, it isn't linear like we thought, right?
Right.
It's all happening apparently at the same time, which is very hard to grasp. And then, yeah, just trying to get a new relationship. I've been, conscious of this for a long time. And, so you try to give space and release and not be on the time, right? But we live in this world that is on time. And so it's, what are your thoughts on that?
This is the core of my work, Jackie, is helping people have a new relationship with time. Because like the 60s, when I started tracking 5D, I've also been working with natural time. And like I said, the Industrial Revolution imprinted upon us that the human being is a machine. We are not machines, and we cannot operate like that. And then we had electricity, and with that came 24-hour activity where we bank at 3 in the morning, or we go grocery shopping in the middle of the night. There's no sense of connecting with the natural cycles of the day, night, or the moon. Talk about the divine feminine. The moon is one of our greatest mothers, and ever since humanity, who knows, even before that, the moon has mirrored for us this ebb and flow, this building from new moon to full moon, and this releasing from the full moon to the end of the lunar cycle. And I happen to feel the lunar rhythms in my body. My body is the timer. And that's one of the things I'm attempting to share with other people, is that they can feel time as an inner experience instead of letting themselves be ruled by a clock on the wall or the watch on their wrist. It's like time is an inner experience. And so that's how we let go of the rushing. And I'll tell you, I've been on this track of 5D for decades, and I've had teachers, and one of my teachers introduced to me to stop making lists. And she introduced this idea, and it took me 3 years to accept it and to start doing it. And now I do it. And I don't make a list. I don't make a grocery shop list. I don't make any lists, because that takes me out of the present moment. Now, I know listeners might feel that this is really extreme, but the key word here is present moment. If you let yourself be informed by the present moment, it's a success. It's a win, and you simply ask, what's next? What's next? What's up for me now? Where do I go here?
This is good news for me. I've never been a list maker. I keep thinking I need to become a list maker because it's so
Good.
good. Yeah, what's next? Yeah.
Good.
But I think it because we got ourselves before COVID. I mean, could it have gotten any more intense or busier? Like it was, I don't know about anybody. I think as a collective, we were feeling that we couldn't, there was no more time or space, but we were all going to burst, right? Everybody was so busy. That was my experience. And it was almost like the COVID break was much needed and kind of did help. There's always that double-edged sword of the bad and then the good that comes out of the bad, right? I do
Right.
believe a lot of good came out of that. And part of what you're talking about is that we were able to kind of regenerate or restart our process on, now we're at home. Now we've got this space and time to kind of recalibrate or rethink. That's what I was able to gain from that time off. Do you think
Absolutely, Jackie. And that COVID helped us all immerse in the divine feminine. COVID helped us get into stillness, slow down, be present, be aware. Everybody reacted differently. Some people were really challenged by that, and other people welcomed it. But it was a pause, it was a break, and it allowed us to take a breath. And we're living much different lives now. I mean, there's in the mainstream news, there's information about the great resignation and the quiet resignation, where people are connecting to what has meaning in their life and making choices based on that.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think we're on, like, now that we've kind of come out the other side of it. I don't watch the news. I can't take it. It's just, I don't even know. I know that there's the wars going on, and it's like, I don't even know. And
Right.
I
Right.
just, the politics that were happening during that COVID, and then I was experiencing that same type of whatever going on within my inner home. And it was just such an overwhelm that I just, I've separated myself from all of that now, and just the negative feed on that of fear and I can't take it. It's just so much, you know. Ignorance is bliss, they say, right?
Well, our bodies weren't built for that. And that is the 5D opportunity to discern where your attention goes. You know, where do you put your attention? And if you put your attention on that negativity, that's what you get. You know, that's what shows up. But if like you put your attention on creativity and connection and being uplifted despite the challenges of what that takes, it's much a better outcome, or it's a more fulfilling outcome, it seems.
Well, and just what we're talking about, I mean, what we're sharing isn't competitive. It's an all inclusive and it's a lifting of, you know, for me to talk with you, there's not a competitive edge to this. This is sharing the wealth of your life and your journey and your perspective and perception of what you've learned, right?
Right.
To help someone else understand and lift. And this type of journey that we're making the turn to for myself is so, I mean, when you're lifting someone else, you're getting that back. You know, you get what you're saying, but we're getting it so quick right now, aren't we? The manifest.
That's right. That's right.
I
That's
think
right.
something and it's here, it's here, it's here. And
Yes.
really getting conscious of letting go of the old blah, 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 blah in our head because it's showing up fast and furious.
Right. And Jackie, this is not one-sided. You have to have an open heart, you know, a calm heart, a non-competitive heart to be inquiring and to be reaching out and to have the capacity to build a platform like this where you share with the world. I mean, that's really 5D.
Yeah, you know, I've had a passion for this my whole life. And so for me stumbling into this during the COVID and dark nights of the soul was kind of how I started, you know, this. And it's it's been, you know, the biggest gift ever for me,
Yes.
you know, to be able to
Yes.
talk with people about this information and to gain the knowledge of others and to share that. I know that for myself in my life, there's a lot of people that don't know about what I'm talking about. They, you know, they don't know it to be true or real or, and that's, I think that needs to change because it's not of the mainstream, and so people don't want to buy into it because they're still trying to be part of the group and not, you know what I mean, like
Well, I feel like we have to be okay with that, Jackie. And again, we don't have the whole picture. We don't have the answers. We have a very limited perspective. So as you're meeting people in your life who don't understand or maybe not don't even appreciate your great gift of being a connector and being a helper and being an exchange of ideas, for people to not get that, they will get it
yeah.
by your presence. They will get it just by standing near you. You know, so we don't have, this is another part of the discerning. We don't have to convert anybody. It's all free will. And a lot of people are not going to get it. A lot of people are going to choose to stay in the density. But for those who want it, and it's all an awakening experience. It's like some awareness is everything. And once you start being aware of something, you're going to want to be aware of something else. So it's evolving, it's expanding, it's growing, it's possible for everybody. And I mean, that's again where the judgment comes in. We can't, we have to, I think, we have to be in our own lane, so to speak, about what's our choices. And if somebody doesn't listen to us, or if somebody doesn't appreciate us, or if somebody doesn't understand us, that has to be okay. I mean, what else, what other choice do we have? We just bless them and continue growing and finding like-minded people, because we all need support. We all need community and connection, but we have to be open to the people who do get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's really nice for me to be able to have conversations with people who do understand, and then I can gain the knowledge as well. And
Right. Right.
so, why would somebody want to know this information to go to 5D? So they're in 3D, they're comfortable here. Why would they care about moving to the fifth dimension?
Well, if the third dimension experience is too uncomfortable or too it doesn't fit anymore, then they want to look at something else. And for me, the key is to look at how everything has changed over every area of life, and what's the link between all of those changes. Our consciousness is raising. It doesn't look like it, but we are actually being kinder to one another.
Mm,
So it's like eh, evolution happens, and we can either resist the change and the growth, or we can go with it. And it's like a newborn baby. I mean, we're constantly in that birth canal, birthing ourselves, growing up. The growth pain between infancy and toddler is immense. You learn to walk, you learn to talk. We forget how hard that was, but we're still doing it now as adults. We're still expanding in those same ways. The growth experience is the same challenge. It's just different. Do you know what I mean?
mhm. I do. And so for somebody wanting to move out of, so 3D, so there's a lot of contrast, right? And
Right,
uncomfortableness, like lots of fight and that kind of thing. So that's why you would
right.
want to lift your consciousness and find information about how to lift yourself to the 5D,
That's
because
that's
there's
that's
more
one
peace,
that's
more
one
love, more oneness.
that's one way. Another way is if you're starting to feel very creative, and the surge to create just really wants to be expressed, and you're not going to create. You're going to create in 5D in a different way than you created in 3D. So if you feel very creative, if you feel inspired to have a new awareness. I mean, these are all, it's like the growth. It's all part of noticing how you're changing, and how you're changing connect with this cosmic evolution, and that you're part of it. And so
Mhm.
you just find like-minded communities and support and people to help you to make it more full.
You talking about the heart and the brain. The heart, brain, heart coherence, the
Yes,
heart math.
yes,
Are you
yes.
familiar with that?
Very,
Yeah,
yes.
that that was introduced to me a few years back. I did a Joe Dispenza advanced course here in Vancouver, and they introduced us to the heart math. And there's like a little app, and you put it on your ear, and you can actually see it when you breathe into your heart. It'll it'll tell you when you're into coherence, and the benefit of finding that coherence. It's just a tool, I guess, to help strengthen and help get us into understanding when we're there and when we're not. So I found that very valuable.
Absolutely, Jackie. Absolutely. And that's what I mean about somebody not understanding you. If you just stand with that person heart to heart, even without words and clearly without any agenda, there can be heart coherence.
Got it. Got it. Just the energy that you're broadcasting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. That's great. So tell me about Margaret Newman, the nurse theorist.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, her, I was a nurse for many years, and I subscribe to her theory. Nurses have nurse theories that guide their practice. And my nurse mentor suggested that I might really align with hers, and I did. And her theory is that health is expanding consciousness. And what that means is whenever we have a crisis, it can be health or anything, whenever we have a crisis, there's chaos. And out of that chaos comes a new order. And so that raises us to a higher level of functioning. So that is life. And that's another part of 5D, is like we see failure, or we see a challenge, or we see a trauma, and we go through it, and we can, like you said earlier, embrace the gift of it. We can see that it has blessings for us. It's not necessarily negative. It's that growth opening. So that's why I love her theory, because that is all of life. Every bump in the road takes us to a higher level of functioning, a higher level of awareness.
Yeah, so that's why you get up,
Yes,
right? When you fall
exactly.
down, you want to
Yeah,
get up because you know that you're going a little bit,
yes,
going to the
yes.
polarity of
And
that, right?
absolutely, Jackie. And we don't see failures or threats as necessarily bad things. We see them as opportunities. We everything that happens is a learning. And if we can embrace that, we let go of the judgment, our own inner judgment of good and bad, of right and wrong. We come to more self-love and self-trust.
Yeah, yeah. So, and Thomas, how do you say his name? Hubel?
Oh
Hubel?
my gosh, he's an incredible world thought leader now. He helps with a collective trauma. We are, oh my gosh, we are so influenced by collective trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, it hurts our heart. We see tragedy and trauma in the world, or even in our neighborhood, and it impacts us. And there's trauma informed care is a thing in healthcare and psychiatry and everything right now. And Thomas's work is at the collective level, where where it's an ancestral and collective, it's embedded, and he has practices and community support for releasing that trauma. It all goes back to Daniel Siegel's work, or Stephen Porget's work of the polyvagal theory. And this connects to the heart again. The polyvagal theory, it's the flight, fight, or freeze. And in 5D, we have a chance to get out of that and be in present moment. But most of the time, we are stuck in either fight, flight, or freeze. And there's tons of information on working with the polyvagal theory. The polyvagal theory is the 10th cranial nerve, and that's trauma is stored. We like in fight, flight, or freeze, we have stored trauma, and we can't get past that stuck point. And so there's a whole body of work in many different disciplines about freeing that trauma, about letting the energy flow through, so that you can be in present moment and you're not responding to an ancestral or a collective or a personal wound.
Well, that would be valuable information, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
And so all of this is stuff that you're helping share and teach, and how are you going? You've done an ebook, and what's
Yes.
the name of it again?
It's called 5D Ordinary Descriptions of an Extraordinary Shift.
So
And
I love that, because then you can
yes,
kind of have a overview of, okay, this is what that looks like. Am I even
exactly.
process? Yeah.
Exactly. It's really a primer or a very basic introduction to 5D.
Yeah.
And then how I work with people from there is that, I said before that that is a cosmic evolution, not just a human evolution. Everything on the planet is expanding. And since 2000, Jackie, there have been these planets discovered that are, I call them 5D planets. They're also known as dwarf planets, but they're new in our human consciousness since 2000, and they help us raise our frequency. And so I do readings with people on their birth charts with the 5D planets to see what's up for them and to see what their connections with these energies are. And then for the way that I like to work the best, that I find most effective, is in a 3-part series where we do an astrology reading, and then the second session we do a guided imagery. And I am convinced, dear Jackie, that I can't tell anybody anything that they do not already know. My job is to help them calm down, relax, and access their inner knowing. So in the second session, we do a guided imagery journey. And the first half of that is a deep relaxation. And then from there, we journey out into deep space and connect with the planets that are prominent in that person's birth chart. And then they have a dialogue with that planet. Our cosmos is interactive. It's just like with our pets, our cats or our dogs. They don't speak English or language, but we connect with them on the heart level. Well, it's the same with our plants. It's the same with nature. It's the same with planetary beings in the sky. It's an interactive experience. So we explore that in the second session. And then in the third session, we integrate those first 2 sessions, and we often see that that's where the real start of the work is. And I just help people wake up to their intuition. Living by intuition is my highest goal. I want to do it 100% of the time, because what else is there but knowing from within, and trusting that. So in each of those sessions is available as, individual sessions, but I like to work in a package with people so that they can get the full experience of their own inner knowing.
Interesting. Sounds great. Sounds great. We'll be doing one of those for me, for sure.
Good,
I know.
absolutely.
See, I get all the benefits of the first-hand knowledge.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
How long have you done that for?
Well, I've been working with astrology since the 60s, in and out. Margaret Newman, her work is really based on astrology. She doesn't name it, but it is. She references an astrologer. She doesn't name him as an astrologer. And I wrote a continuing education course for nurses in astrology based on Florence Nightingale's work. So I've been working with astrology since the 60s, and in and out between astrology and nursing and writing. And I've been doing this work, the 3-part session, over the last year, as I get more into 5D and I work more with these 5D planets. I've got a diploma level training with an astrologer in New Zealand who teaches about these 5D planets, because they're not like Jupiter or Saturn or Venus or Mars, which is in our ordinary consciousness. They're new. And so there's a whole community of us around the world that are studying these planets through direct experience of how they show up in our lives. So yeah, this 3-part work is relatively new over the last year.
Wow. That's amazing. I've always got my eyes up in the sky every night, and I see all sorts of orbs and things. It started out actually on my cameras around my yard, and anyway, it's quite. I think it's fascinating, but I noticed that the stars they're not stars anymore. They're like it's not a single star. It's very different looking out there. And I find it quite fascinating. Some nights they're twinkling and it's like they're very close. And I'd love to know more about what's going on there because it's definitely changed. And yeah, I feel like a lot of times I'd come down, I'd look at my cameras and I'd be like, is there going to be any activity tonight? Is there anybody? And then I'd look over 5 minutes later and there'd be things happening and bouncing. And I'm just like, I just find all of that fascinating. So I think that it's that, well, like that telepathic interaction type thing you're talking about, right?
Jackie, that is awesome. They don't give access to everybody to see at that level. So good on
I've
you
got
that
stuff that would blow your mind. I don't know who to share it with. It's like, and when I share
yeah,
it with anybody around me, they're like, oh yeah. And I don't know if it scares them or, yeah, but I think like
yeah.
there's a lot going on that we are not aware of right in front of our face.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jackie. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I think there could be some Facebook groups that might work with orbs and you could look there for
Yeah.
more places to share them.
I was watching uh, a show, some Skinner Ranch or something. I can't remember the name of it, but somebody was sharing it with me the other day. And it was the digging that brought forth all of this. Well, we dug this pool, and it was right at the beginning of the digging of the land that there was this great big huge white moving around in the dirt, like within the pool area. It kind of started like that, and it was nonstop action after that. I think we might have upheavaled. I'm not sure exactly what, but with lots of prayer and cleansing and this and that, it was like lots of white orbs and bouncing, and because I was kind of scared at first,
Jack,
I hadn't seen that.
Jackie, that is awesome. That is
Yeah,
spectacular.
yeah,
Congratulations. And one person comes to mind for you to maybe look at his work, and his name is Rory, Rory Duff, D like David, UFF, Rory Duff. He works with ley lines and earth mysteries, and he looks at these kinds of sacred spots across the world. And he has an incredible newsletter, pages and pages of a newsletter. You don't subscribe to it, but you can get it on his website.
okay.
And yeah, he might lead you to other possible connections.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
pretty brilliant. Like the stuff that I have on camera or whatever, it's just incredible. It's yeah, it would be lovely to talk to somebody who had some kind of knowledge and, instead of me kind of just going,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Well, certainly you can put it out there in the podcast world and have a guest that knows about this. But
yeah,
the other thing is to connect with your heart, because, like I said, they do not show themselves to everybody. So you can have an interactive dialogue with them. What do they want you to know?
yeah.
Thank them for showing up, just how much they excite you. Do you know all of that stuff?
And I've done that because it's been years now, and so
Yeah.
kind of made my peace with, at first I would go outside to see if I could see what was on the screen because I would be like, oh,
Yeah, that's
that kind of thing.
awesome.
So yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
that's energy. That's this new 5D energy where we're seeing beyond the veil. We're seeing beyond the separation.
that's what that is. That's the lifting of the veil,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I think that this is just the beginning of a whole new venue that people will be exploring to big degrees, don't you? Like,
Absolutely. We're a growing worldwide community. Absolutely.
yeah,
And there's one other thing that I would like to share as a way that people can connect with me that's free, and that's I publish a weekly blog post, and in the blog post I look at what's the structure of the moon phase that we're in that week, because that's how I connect to natural time. And then I connect how that structure connects to 5D, and then I give a little how-to. So if people go to my website, they can, aurealwilliams.com, they can see where they can sign up for the email list, and that is totally free. And it's a way to learn more about my work.
And yeah, and your knowledge. That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, I
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed information and this meeting of you. This is great. I think we're going to be having some more communication, you and I.
Oh, I look forward to it, Jackie.
I do
Thank you
too.
so much for
I
this
do too.
opportunity.
Okay, so
Many
I'll make sure
blessings.
that all of your ways to connect with you are posted with our podcast, and
Thank you.
it'll be in the write up, and then hopefully you can share with your followers as well. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that would be great. And I'm grateful for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie, so much.
Bye.
Bye.